One night, the famous pianist Arthur Rubinstein was giving a concert to a packed house. Rubinstein stood in the lobby and watched with great pride the crowds of people flocking into the theater to hear him play. There was not a seat left. The usher saw him standing there and called out, "Sorry, mister, didn't you read the sign? No seats left. I can't seat you." Very humbly, Rubinstein replied, "Well, perhaps I could be seated at the piano." He was not recognized because he was in an unexpected place. People were not used to seeing him standing in the lobby. They were used to seeing him sitting at the piano. So when they saw him somewhere else, they didn't even recognize him. That can happen to all of us. Years ago, I knew a lady who was the cook at a home of some friends of mine. Whenever I went there for dinner, I would go into the kitchen and speak to the cook. This always delighted her because I was the only one who could speak to her in her native language. One Sunday morning, this woman came to Mass at my church. She came up to me, and I knew her from somewhere, but I had no idea who she was. She wasn't wearing the apron I was used to seeing her in, nor was she moving around pots and pans in the kitchen, which was the only way I had ever seen her. So to my great embarrassment, I did not recognize her in the church. We often do not recognize people when we run into them in unexpected places. Disciples of Jesus were walking down a road. Jesus himself was walking down that road with them. They saw him, they talked to him, but they did not recognize him because they were not expecting him to be there. They had never seen him on a road. They had seen him preach, but they had never walked with him. What is more, they thought he was dead, so they certainly were not expecting to see him walking there next to them. Because it was unexpected, he was unrecognized. In our life, too, God is always with us, always walking with us every step on the road of life. We encounter God on every corner, but often we encounter God in unexpected places and don't recognize him. We encounter God in prayer. We expect that. We encounter God when we study about God. We expect that. But we can encounter God in the most unexpected places as well. We can encounter God in one another. If you look to the person next to you, you are looking in the face of God. We see God in the poor, in the homeless, in the stranger, in the sick, and in the dying. Do we recognize God? In the beauties of nature, too, we encounter God. In the fragrance of flowers, the majesty of mountains, the power of the sea, it is God we are seeing. We encounter God in our tears, in those moments of sadness and mourning and pain, those difficult yet powerful moments that cause us to turn inward. We encounter God in the wise, the old, the venerable, but we also encounter God in the face of the tiniest child. We encounter God in the most unexpected places. How often have I stared right into the face of God and did not recognize God because it was in an unexpected place? So it was with the disciples on the road to Emmaus. God was right there with them, and they did not recognize God. When was it that their eyes were opened? When was it that they finally recognized who it was that had been speaking with them? walking with them. It was when Jesus broke the bread and gave it to them. I often wonder why it was precisely at this moment that their eyes were opened. Then I remember my mother. Our mother prepares a meal in a unique way that no one else does. When we sit down to a meal made by our mother, we know immediately our mother's hand was in this. And whether our mother is the best cook in the world or a lousy one, she has a particular way of doing things that no one else does. And we recognize the hand of the mother. When our mother is no longer here, and we sit down to a meal that is exactly the same thing she used to prepare for us, we recognize immediately, this is good, but it's not Mom's. So it was with Jesus. He must have had a particular way of blessing and breaking the bread, a way that they recognized immediately. These followers must have sat down to table with him on other occasions. Perhaps they were there at the Last Supper. Perhaps they were there as he blessed and broke and distributed the bread to miraculously feed the 5,000. They recognized the hand of Jesus in the particular way he blessed the bread. They recognized that it was Jesus next to them when he, their guest, suddenly became the host. In this way, as in so many others, it is our mothers who open our eyes to the presence of God. Who were these disciples walking down the road to Emmaus? They were not part of the inner circle. They were not the 11 apostles. They were not the leaders of the church. Yet it was their eyes that were opened. Sometimes it is the eyes of unexpected people that are first opened. As we go down the path of our own life, we encounter God at every step. Like the disciples on the road to Emmaus, perhaps we will find that we are among those unexpected people whose eyes can unexpectedly be opened to recognize God in the most unexpected places.